Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'd like to welcome everyone to this video. Thank you for watching. Today I wanted to talk about some of the underlying causes of prejudice and even downright bigotry in America, particularly based on the way that different killers of different backgrounds are portrayed in the media. So many of us can recognize at this point that there seems to be a pattern. Oftentimes, if there is a Muslim in the news who killed somebody, they will be labeled as a terrorist, a Muslim terrorist. Oftentimes, if it is a black person, an African American, they will be labeled as a thug or a criminal. And oftentimes, if it's a white person, they will be labeled as a lone psychopath, just a sort of unique, crazy individual. And it seems like oftentimes only the group that is being discriminated against recognizes that discrimination. And I wanted to explore that in this video. Why is it that Muslims seem to be the main ones who can see they're misrepresenting us in the media? Or why is it mostly black people who can recognize how they are misrepresented? Or white people who recognize how they are misrepresented? Well, firstly, I wanted to start with white people, for example. White people are the majority in the United States. Not only that, but communities tend to congregate in certain areas. So in many places of America, it's almost all white. And even in places where different races live amongst each other, it's typical that you'll have closer relations with people who share the same background as you. So if you went up to a white person in America and you asked them to name as many white people as they possibly could, whether it's people that they know personally or it's just people that they've seen on TV, they could probably name thousands of people. That being the case, they know so many different white people, it's easy for them to recognize that white people are different. They look different, they act different, they have different personalities. Some are nice, some are mean, some are funny, some are smart. So that being the case, when there's a white person who murders someone, if you compare that murderer to all these other people that they know, they'll realize this is just some sort of a lone, crazy psychopath. Why? Because I know tons of other white people, and none of them are like this guy. However, when it comes to minorities, the mere fact that they are a minority shows that there is less of them. The chances are, unless you are from that minority, you know far less of them. You don't know that many of them. So if you were to ask a white person, for example, name as many Muslims as you can, most of them would probably have to pick from what they've seen in the media, what they've seen on the news. So instead of them having hundreds or thousands of different Muslims to choose from and to notice that they're different, there's a wide spectrum of different Muslims, all they know is what they've seen in the media. And what do they see in the media? Criminals, terrorists. However, as a Muslim, you probably could name hundreds, if not thousands, of different Muslims. You know that there are funny Muslims, smart Muslims, rude Muslims, nice Muslims. You'd even understand that there are all kinds of different Muslims, Sunni Muslims, Shia, Sufi, practicing, non-practicing. There are all kinds of different Muslims that you would know. So when you see a Muslim in the news who reportedly killed somebody, you'd see them as some sort of a loner psychopath. You surely would not identify them with all of the other Muslims that you know. However, if your main understanding and exposure to Muslims is what you see in the media, then you're going to have a completely different perspective. And this is why the media is so important. The same thing goes for black people. If you're an African American, you live amongst other black Americans, then you know all kinds of different black people. Some are funny, some are nice, some are smart, some are mean. There's all kinds of different people. However, if you don't know any of them, and your only exposure to them is what you see in the media, then that's going to shape your perspective of them. And because the media is so powerful, when they report groups of people in a certain type of way, and they start shaping people's perspective of that minority, it can be extremely dangerous. All you have to do is look back at history and see some of the atrocities that human beings are capable of committing. The most obvious well-known example is the Holocaust and the Nazis. So it's extremely important that we recognize the complexity of human beings, the complexity of different groups of people, and how dangerous it can be to discriminate and marginalize them. Now recently, in certain parts of the country, there's been a lot more interaction amongst different races, different ethnicities, different religions. So there have emerged groups of people who are fighting to change the way that certain groups are portrayed in the media. And some of them have even gone to an extreme. People call them social justice warriors. And really what they have done is they have given the far right a taste of their own medicine. So now for like the first time in American history, we're hearing white Christian males talking about how they're misrepresented in the media, about how they're discriminated against. So now you have this extreme left going against this extreme right, and that kind of division has led to someone like Donald Trump being elected president. Electing Donald Trump as president was the far right's way of combating that extreme left. And from what I see, the country is just becoming very split. And I think it's extremely important that we start to have more empathy for one another. The far right has to recognize the hypocrisy. You helped give birth to this extreme left based on years and years of discrimination and misrepresenting people in the media. And the extreme left has to realize that two wrongs don't make a right. You going to an extreme is causing people to lose their mind. When you go to an extreme, you're doing a lot of the same things that you hated the far right doing. So now it's like America's been flipped upside down. It's crazy. Whatever you identify as, whether you're white, black, Muslim, whatever it is, understand that that affects your perspective. And it's important to have empathy and try to understand where other people are coming from. And in closing, there's one last thing I'd like to say to all of us as Americans. We're not the majority when it comes to the world. In the eyes of other countries, we are a minority. Their perspective of us is based on what they see in their media. So for example, if all that they see in their media is America bombed my country, America invaded and destroyed my country, I can't even live a normal life now, or America did this, America did that. They don't know any Americans. All that they know is what they're seeing in the media. That can also lead them to have a skewed view of America and think that we're all terrorists or we're all evil people. And we surely would disagree with that because we know better. But the point is that this whole ideology is not just exclusive to one group of people. It applies to all of us. It applies to us as Americans. It applies to other people in other countries. And even amongst us in America, the different groups, the different races, ethnicities, religions, it applies to all of us. So it's very important that we recognize this and we have empathy and we try to solve some of these problems and get a more realistic view of reality. Because right now I just see a lot of hatred spreading based on misinformation, based on misrepresentations of people. So that's all I wanted to say. Please let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you for watching. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.